So welcome back. This is the closing session. As we said, I appreciate all of those of you that have stuck through it and are here with us now. One of the things you will see is it'll seem like there's a larger crowd at the reception. So I really want to thank those of you that stayed in here, even though there's already liquor set up out there. You will get advantage of being in here with us. And the reason you're going to get advantage of being in here with us is we really have saved one of our best presentations at all of our Solve events for last, and that's really to have an analyst come out and talk a bit with us around what's happening in the cloud and what's happening with the future of the cloud. And so let's jump right into that, and please join me in welcoming to the stage the Senior Vice President of Digital Infrastructure and Data Center Initiatives from 451 Research Group, Michelle Bailey.
Keep this really brief because I know you really want to get outside. And this is going to be the easiest presentation you listen to today because this presentation is really all about you. I'm from 451 Research and I run a large team of data analysts, and we are constantly collecting information about customers, particularly cloud customers and data center customers. And what we've done over the last several years is just turn cloud upside down. We've looked at it backwards, we've looked at it inside out, and really tried to track where we think the market is going. And I can tell you that there's going to be three important things for cloud going forward. The market is going to change dramatically. The market of cloud that you know today and what we've seen historically is going to be completely different 5 years from now. The customers that are buying cloud services are going to be completely different 5 years from now. And because of all of that, the technology is going to be completely different. And so what we have an opportunity to present to you today is how the market we think is going to shape up and really what it means going forward and just how rich and robust we see the cloud market as we move forward. So just to give you a highlight of really how we see the world of cloud evolving, I said that the market is going to change, and the cloud market of the last 5 years is going to look just like a warm-up for what's coming for the next 5 years. And when we think about cloud and where cloud has been up until now, cloud really got started around this notion of hyperscale, multi-tenant everything, really being able to serve test and development workloads and web-based workloads, and was really built for scale. It was built for good enough, and it was built for low cost. And it was also built and driven by engineers, right? It wasn't really built for a market. It was really an idea that a number of engineers had, and it came to market just at the right time, and was really great at disrupting what had been a pretty stable IT market for the last 20 years. And while that was taking place, customers were along for the ride. So customers really didn't have input into what was happening with cloud. They really just had to sort of jump on board and figure out how to use that for themselves. The world of cloud going forward, 2.0, is really going to be much more tailored to customers, and it's really going to be about meeting business-ready environments. So Cloud 2.0 is going to be all about you. It's going to be about meeting the needs of the customer, making sure that applications and services are business-ready, and it's really about doing all the things around ensuring business process. It's going to be business-led. It's going to be more predictable. It's going to be more complex. And because of that, the market's going to change from being all about volume to being all about value. And the best part about this change in the market is that the customers get back in the driver's seat. So as a customer, because you're looking for more services and you're looking for more robust services, all the vendors in the market, in terms of where they're investing their dollars, they're all going to start thinking about you and what you need as a customer. And so you actually get to dictate what's coming for the next 5 years. Some research that we've done and presented pretty extensively over the last year. This is something that we actually did with Microsoft. We did a worldwide study of 2,000 cloud and hosting customers, and we asked them what they were spending in 2015 across 4 areas. So traditional infrastructure hosting, managed services, security services, and application hosting. And what was really telling to me is that 70% of what customers want to spend on cloud and hosting and what they ultimately spent in 2015 on cloud and hosting was not about infrastructure. It was about all the things that live on top of infrastructure. And that immediately told us that customers are looking for more than what had been the world of Cloud 1.0, that they're looking for what's coming in Cloud 2.0 and are willing to invest in those services well beyond what they've invested before. So things like VDI and data analytics and application development tools and DevOps, all of these new tools that are coming into the cloud market, security services, right? Customers expect to spend 20% of their budget on security services. This is not the market of yesterday. This is a very, very different market going forward. And when we look at the different applications and services that customers really want, as we drill down into those different areas, managed services, the mainstay of managed services for the last 5 years has been 24/7 support, right? That's how a managed hosting provider used to differentiate themselves from just a bare metal server or a infrastructure delivery service. And what we see today is that customers looking for backup and recovery and disaster recovery. They're looking for more application development tools. They're looking for mobility services. They're looking for all those things that can protect their environment and put them in a place where they can move forward and think about a different future. And when we look at the applications that customers are looking for, and again, this has been one of the fastest growing areas that we've seen in cloud. Customers either looking directly to an ISV to buy cloud-based applications or SaaS applications, or even hosted applications, going to a hoster and buying applications through them. It's database, it's email. Email, I'm going to show you some data at the end here. It's just been a huge driver of cloud over the last 12 months. Business apps, virtual desktop, VDI, and personal productivity tools, right? And then as we look at security services, we used to talk a lot in Cloud 1.0 of security is such a hurdle for the cloud. I like to talk about security as being the biggest opportunity in the cloud going forward. And when we ask customers what they're looking for in terms of security, it's things like endpoint security, so antivirus. It's things like encryption and web application firewall, so being able to protect known attacks or known threats. And it's things like advanced anti-malware or advanced APT, so being able to protect against attacks that you don't know are coming and it may actually still be operating in your environment. And then it's things like SIM, log event analysis, so being able to do forensics and log everything that's happening in your environment and being able to do analytics on that later to figure out where the threats may be. And what's really telling about the security market is how quickly the vendors in that space have changed. So for many, many years, security was about companies like McAfee and Symantec, right? It was really dominated by a couple of large vendors, and it was heading to free very, very quickly. And now all the vendors we see in this space are companies like Kaspersky and CipherCloud around encryption, and companies like Zscaler and FireEye and APT, and companies like AlertLogic and SIM. These are all new names, new companies that are spinning up services, not just for cloud, but really specifically around optimizing for a VM. So we've seen dramatic changes, not just in the hardware markets and the infrastructure markets, and not just in applications, but also around security. And it's just thinking about a completely different world. And when I look at this slide, what I think of is, wow, cloud is really already about full service. If you take a look at what's on this slide, that's already a lot of what a customer has running in their own environment. And so cloud really is about a business-ready environment already today, and going forward, it's really going to be about being able to service all these needs. And the reason for that is because of this, and it's the changing customer base in cloud. So when you take a look at this data, this is from our quarterly data where we're constantly polling our panel of 25,000 enterprise IT buyers like yourself. We ask customers, where are they on their journey to cloud? So starting with test and dev, customers just getting going on discovery, customers doing trials with cloud, and then customers already doing something in production. So either initially getting started with production apps in the cloud or more broadly adopting cloud for their production applications. And what you can see from this chart is that already 50% of the customers are doing something in production on the cloud. And we've already got 22% of customers today say they're broadly adopting cloud as a path going forward. What's really telling is the chart on the right, and that tells you who those customers are. So if we take a look at those broad implementers today, you can see that they are overwhelmingly customers that identify themselves as being early adopters. So the first adopters of cloud were, not surprisingly, those customers that typically get started early on technology, and for whatever reason, can take on a lot of risk in their environment. Either it's their industry where they can take risk or their business unit where they can take risk, but they're clearly willing to make the trade-off between time to market and risk. And we see that again and again with early adopter behavior. What's really interesting is those initial implementers today, and they start to look a lot more like the mass market. So we've got what we like to call in the market research industry the fat middle. It's the biggest part of the market. It's people like you and me. It's people who like to wait a little bit, work out the kinks, see how the market evolves before they jump right in. And so what's very interesting about these customers is that for the broad adopters today, they tell us they have about 50% of their applications in the cloud already, and they plan over the next 3 years to have 75% of their applications in the cloud. Not surprising, right? They're very, very bullish on cloud. What was really pretty telling for us is those initial implementers, so the mainstream part of the market, they said they have about 15% of their apps in the cloud on average today. They plan to be at 45% in 3 years. So the biggest part of the market, the mainstream buyer, plans to triple the number of applications that they have in the cloud over 3 years. And by the way, as they make that migration, as customers move from one stage to the next on this journey, they typically spend about 50% more. So the biggest part of the market with mainstream needs is going to triple the number of applications in the cloud, and by the way, they're going to spend about 50% more every time they take a step forward. So what does that mean? It means the market is enormous, right? It means that all the spending is going to go into these services, and it's really, really good for you as customers because it means that when these vendors are thinking about where they invest and where they spend their money and where they improve their own services, they're going to be looking at these types of applications, and the money is going to go here. So it's always goodness when markets get like this, when they start to build momentum and they start to get big, because again, they start building services that they think you're going to buy. And the services that we know and the providers that we know customers are looking for aren't the providers of Cloud 1.0. So we took about 50 attributes that customers think about when they evaluate a vendor, and we plotted it on a couple of axes. The x-axis is important. So how important is that attribute to you in terms of meeting your business needs? And then what we plotted on the y-axis is the percent of vendors that companies felt were able to serve that need. And the higher you got up on the y-axis, the less likely or the fewer number of vendors customers thought were in the market were able to deliver on that service. And so what you can see in the upper right here is what we like to call the white space. It's what's really important to customers, but where there isn't a lot of really good provisioning or good service delivery. And you can see what customers are looking for, and what hasn't necessarily been well served today is things like trust. They're looking for a trustworthy company. They're looking for product reliability and uptime. They're looking for secure products and services. They're looking for technical experts and technical knowledge and product performance. These are not the needs of a Cloud 1.0 customer. These are the needs of a Cloud 2.0 customer. Customers in Cloud 2.0 are just making very, very different decisions. And what we see at the upper part of the chart is what we like to think of as those future characteristics that customers are going to look for. Things that are still important, not quite as important as what customers need today, but where there is very much an unmet need in the market. And what you can see in that is really a lot of understanding my business, being able to deliver industry-specific services, and we really do think that that will be another step forward in the provisioning market for vendors that can really service somebody and service their business on a more personalized basis. So the customer is changing, the market is changing, and what customers are going to buy is going to change dramatically, but many, many customers are still on a journey, and we take a look a lot at workloads and where different workloads are placed based on the different cloud environment that they're looking at adopting. What you can see on the left-hand side is what's on-premise, and whether it's on-premise in a cloud or customers have built their own private clouds on-premise. And this is a pretty standard workload profile for most companies today in terms of how different applications break out on a percentage basis. What you can see is that you start moving over to the right-hand side as things get closer and closer to hosted cloud and then ultimately to public cloud. And you can see that the workloads do change somewhat. I've been doing workload research for about 15 years, and I can tell you that workloads don't change overnight. People make pretty well-informed decisions before they move their workloads to a different environment. And what you can see is that as customers think about a hosted private cloud solution, their workload profile in a hosted private cloud doesn't look all that different from what they're doing on-prem. A little bit more web, a little bit less business app, a little bit more infrastructure, but for the most part, it doesn't look all that different. And what we know is that for customers that were just getting going on cloud, what they wanted to do was really test out something that they felt secure in and that was performant. And a hosted private cloud was really the default platform for them to get started. What we see on the right-hand side is public cloud, right? So infrastructure as a service and software as a service. And again, infrastructure as a service, we saw a lot more web there as the market got going. We actually see a lot of business apps there. So think again, that early adopter that was just getting going with public cloud really brought a lot of business apps there, and we actually expect that profile to change over time as the mainstream buyer comes to public cloud. But what's really telling is what happened with SaaS. And again, this is over the last year. Take a look at that teal bar in the middle. That is email and collaborative. And that's mostly hosted Exchange, Office 365 applications. It just shows you how quickly a market can change when a very large vendor like Microsoft gets behind this notion of cloud and really drives that market. It's just a huge installed base of customers that they can drive and change. So the market's changing very, very dramatically. The products are changing. What customers are doing with cloud is changing dramatically. And I think one of the biggest urban myths of cloud has been that cloud is low touch. Cloud is absolutely not low touch going forward. Cloud is high touch going forward. Customers are absolutely demanding better security, better service, better reliability, better uptime. And as they do that, it's going to be a little bit complex for everybody. So we also asked this as part of our quarterly ongoing research about customers and how many cloud environments they're supporting today. And you can see already, only 30% of customers have a single cloud environment. 70% of the customers that we're surveying tell us that they've got multi-cloud environments already. And there's a spectrum of multi-cloud, but ultimately where we think the market will go to is hybrid cloud. So multi-cloud is having lots and lots of different cloud environments that may or may not interact with each other. Hybrid cloud is being able to run a single application across multiple clouds and run that single business instance and being able to place the data in the application where it performs best. Only about 17% of customers are doing that today. It's still very much emerging, but the big takeaway here is that it's not going to be just one cloud. And I think the other biggest takeaway we have here is that cloud is very personal. There is no one cookie cutter solution for every customer out there. There's no one given best practice for everybody to do, right? It can be very, very personal. And so what this means is the type of providers that you're going to be looking for going forward are going to be very, very different. And so my advice to you is look at maturity, look at the providers out there and see just how much experience they have in the market providing cloud services. Ask them really, really hard questions. Things like, if I have an outage, is there going to be somebody to pick up the phone or do I sit in an email queue? What is going to happen if there's a breach in my environment? How long is it going to take you to get back to me and let me know what happened there? And by the way, are you going to get back to me and let me know that there's been a breach? I think the other thing that you're going to need to look for is someone that's considered a trustworthy provider. And what does trust mean? A lot of that comes down to experience and expertise. So really take a hard look at those companies and figure out just how much technical expertise is there behind these providers and ask them really hard questions across the whole stack, not just infrastructure, but security, applications, and also managed services. And the other thing is partnerships matter. There is no one vendor that's going to be able to build all this themselves. There's not. So what we expect to see is that the best providers in this space are going to be those that partner the best. And you're already starting to see a lot of that happen, right? Lots and lots of announcements around partnering with Amazon, partnering with Azure. Went to an analyst event the other day. It was the Oracle analyst event, and they talked about all of their applications now being in the cloud and having a cloud-first strategy with their sales team, right? So when companies like Oracle are talking about cloud-first, you know this market is completely different going forward. And what it means is that customers like yourselves have lots of decisions to make. There's lots and lots of vendors out there. There's 25,000 service providers in the market today. And really what comes down to you is picking that provider that best meets your business needs and can frankly articulate what those needs are going to be for you and how they're going to best service you across an entire suite of applications and services. All right, with that, I think we're going to let you all go. Thank you.